Hello everyone, Mr. Hein here. This is a video to talk about your fractions review to make sure we all feel pretty comfortable with when we see a fraction, which comes up more than you think, especially when you get into higher level math classes in college. There's always partial things happening, so you want to make sure you know how to work with them, whether there's numbers or letters, regardless. But before you start this, I like to focus in on wherever I'm at, try to be present, and I do that by doing my meditative breathing. So if you want to join me, please do. If not, jump ahead in the video. But so for those joining me, be aware of your thoughts, whatever is on your brain right now. For example, for me right now, I'm thinking, dang, you start tomorrow. It's nerve-wracking, it came so close. All right, be aware of it. And then you got to take all that attention, focus on your breath. All right, sit upright, and here we go. Breathe in and out through the mouth. So one more time like that, in and out, and through the nose only, in and out. How do you feel? Hopefully a little bit clearer in the brain. You don't really remember what you were just thinking about. If not, keep doing it. It gets easier, but focus on the breath. That's the trick there. Now with adding fractions, the goal is that you know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and know powers when it comes to fractions. Now the first one is adding, subtracting fractions. Hopefully you remember that with this, you need common denominators. So say, for example, I have 1/3 plus 1/4. The common denominator, easy way to do it is just multiply by each other, because if you multiply by each other, they'll both share these numbers as multiples of it, factors of it. So we're going to multiply this left fraction by 4/4, which we can do because 4 divided by 4 is just 1, and timesing by 1 doesn't change the problem. You can't change the problem in math. And then 1/4 multiplied by 3/3, which again doesn't change the problem. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. So 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 3 is 12. This side over here will have 3/12. And then when you add them, the denominator stays the same, and the top add if you can. And in this case, we get 7/12. So that's adding, subtracting fractions. When it comes to multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across. So say I had the problem 1/3 times -3/5. If I go straight across, you have 1 times -3, which is -3, 3 times 5, which is 15. Both those can be divisible by 3. So then you end up getting -1/5. Which, by the way, when you see a negative fraction, you notice -1/5 is the same as having 1 negative in front, or it's even same as saying 1/5. Because 1 positive and 1 negative is still a negative. What it's not the same as is -1/5. Because if they're both negative, a negative divided by negative is actually a positive 1/5, which is not equal. Right. Another trick with multiplying fractions is, since you know you're multiplying across, technically if you didn't even combine anything, you would have something like 1 times 3, and on the bottom you'd have 3 and 5, in which these go to 1, because 3 goes in each of these, right? In which 1 times -1 is -1, 1 times 5 is 5. So there's your answer there. Dividing fractions. Now, the trick here, because again, this video is really meant to just help us get faster at doing these procedurally. You flip the second fraction, and then multiply, and that's how you can go through these a little bit quicker. So say the problem was 1/2 divided by 1/4. This was going to become 1/2 times 4/1, in which multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across. So you get 4/2, which is 2/1, which is 2. Or at the beginning, you could have said 2 went into each of these, in which you have a simpler problem to work with from the get-go, which would also get your final answer. Right. Now, just some other things that I want to make sure you know with fractions, because they're going to be coming up a lot, and I don't want you to get too stuck up on this part of the problem, is anything can be written as over 1, because when you divide by 1, it doesn't change the value, and that's why that comes in handy. So 4 is the same as 4 over 1, right? 4 divided by 1 is still 4. So if I gave a problem, or even case like 1/2, you could even write as 1/2 over 1. 1/2 is still a number. I know sometimes we see it as a fraction, but that's just a number. And when you divide by 1, that doesn't change it. That's still 1/2. Now, I think you'll see a problem that looks something like this, 1/3 divided by 4. On a problem like this, you could actually maybe write this as 1/3 divided by 4 out like that, in which maybe you recognize that this is now the same as 1/3 times, because 4 can be written as 4 over 1. So if we flip that, that's the same as 1/4. And then you multiply straight across, and you get 1/12. So 1/3 divided by 4 is 1/12. And that's how you divide fractions. 4 over 1, flip it, and then you can multiply. And then the last one I'm going to talk about here is negative exponents. Now, negative exponents actually means how many times you are dividing that base number. So for example, 3 to the second means 3 times 3. You're multiplying by 3 by itself 2 times. 3 to the negative second means you're dividing by 3 2 times, which dividing by 3, something has to be divided by, so we just say 1 whole. So 1 divided by 3 2 times, which gives you 1 over 3 to the second. So what you might notice is that there's a trick where instead of having to think about this, if you have a negative exponent, you can just put that on the other side of its fraction and make the exponent positive. You're raising it to that power that many times, but since you're dividing by it, it gets flipped to the other side, because again, that's how you divide fractions. So say I have the problem 1/2 to the negative 1 divided by 3. Well, we could write that as 1/2 to the negative 1 divided by 3, if you like it like that. And then now I just want to show you the long way here is if you want to do that, put it on the other side of 1, you would have 1 over 1/2 to the positive 1 divided by 3. Now notice, how do you divide fractions? That is 1 times 2 over 1. Now that's divided by 3, which gives you 1 over 1 times 2 over 1, which is 2 divided by 3, which we'll just write as a fraction 2/3. Now that seems like a lot of work, but I want to show you that's where negative exponents come from, is how you, that means it's how many times you're dividing that number, and then dividing fractions, you flip and multiply. But the trick here, is you can just put on the other side of fraction an exponent is then positive. So what I mean by that is, like, right back way at the beginning, I could have actually done flip that and make that 2 over 1 to the positive 1 divided by 3, in which 2 over 1 is just 2. 2 to the first power is 2, so you get 2/3. And that's a trick to work with negative exponents a little bit quicker. Negative exponents, you can just flip it. Notice how we get 2, and that's how we got 2 by using the definition above. So hopefully this video helps. Some things to know about fractions. If you have questions on any of it, please feel free to ask or come to office hours. Good luck.